everybody, my name is Bragster and welcome back to F1 Manager, where today we have the Belgium and the Dutch Grand Prix. The reason why I'm already laughing is because I have to take you through the Belgian Grand Prix. It happened, the Belgian Grand Prix happened, but we didn't last very long in the race. I probably left it a bit ambiguous there, but I'm just going to let Connor take you through it because I don't even know what happened. Right, so heading into the Belgian Grand Prix, we set all of our targets the exact same as we usually do. Now, this was a weird qualifying session because there was guaranteed to be rain, but we didn't know in which qualifying sessions. So in Q1, we sent our drivers out early on the softer tyres, hoping that the rain would come about halfway through, and it actually came earlier than that, but it came the moment we stopped our lap. So we put out a brilliant time the first time, so we didn't go out again. So we ended up going out in Q2. Now, after our first times, we ended up finishing in 9th and in 10th, and we were at risk of possibly going out. But if you can see, the millimeters the track went dry while everyone went out on the inters. We decided to take a risk and go out on the softs, and it paid off big time as we ended up finishing in the top 3 in Q2. So we had a lot of momentum on our side, but unfortunately for Q3 it was a completely dry track and our car's not that good. So we finished 9th and 10th, but with a grid penalty to Hamilton, we ended up starting off in 8th and 9th. For Ricciardo, our strategy was to start on the mediums and then go on to the wets, whereas for Norris, we decided to start off on the softs, go to the mediums and then the wets. We decided to split the strategies because we weren't 100% sure when rain was going to come, and based off the predictor, it was almost 100% guaranteed chance of a safety car. So we put plans in place for Norris especially, just in case there was one. And we started off the race incredibly well. Norris ended up overtaking Ocon, and so did Danny Ric, almost in the exact same place as well. Ricciardo was just following Norris for this entire first lap, and it was working brilliantly until this moment right here, where there was a crash, or a crash of some sorts anyway, involving the Williams. As you see, the animation didn't really go that well, and it ended up looking a bit dodgy on screen. But a virtual safety car was given, and that kind of halted our progress massively. But what halted it even further, put it to a grand old halt, was Danny Ric being an absolute idiot, going into the back of Lando Norris and taking the pair of them out of the race. And not only that, messing up their ERS, their engine, their gearbox, everything was completely and utterly messed up, which means we're going to have to take penalties in the next race. But they were just out of the race from the very beginning. But that wasn't the only notable thing that happened, as Sainz ended up also having to retire because of this crash right here. So when I show you the league table in a second, like now, you can see that Sainz isn't there. And for those of you interested, that was the league table, and you could kind of see who got points and who didn't. Gasly also crashed during the race. It was an absolute manic race. It was ridiculous. Right, so now you know what calamity happened. We're here at the Dutch Grand Prix. Fingers crossed, the historic chance of a safety car is 0%. So, hopefully, there's no bloody safety cars, and they get to last till the end of the race. The only problem is, rain could be on the way on race day. We're going to be facing rain a lot at the moment by the looks of things. Fingers crossed we can have a better race than the Belgian Grand Prix, because to be honest, it actually can't get worse than that. Right, so we're here for some performance targets to be set. We're going to obviously put all the qualifying ones. We're not going to put fastest lap because that's likely not to happen. But it does mean that we have to put a new position finish streak because some bloody idiots decided to crash into each other. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. That's the only way of describing it. Well, here we go. We're going into qualifying, and the first thing we're being told is how bad our grid penalties are, because the crash actually mucked up the entirety of Norris's car. So we had to change everything, which is why his grid penalty is plus 19. Qualifying really won't matter. Whereas with Ricciardo, it's only plus 8. It's only plus 8 with Ricciardo because we're not using everything, whereas with Norris, we had to change everything. We're not changing completely everything. We just brought all the new stuff with Ricciardo. So he's got a plus 8 penalty. Norris with a plus 19. So Norris is going to finish back of the grid. The only benefit, and you won't be able to see it on this screen, but having played through qualifying, you were able to see it to some extent, is the fact that we're not the only ones with a grid penalty. Right, I don't think we're expecting rain. We aren't expecting rain. So let's send Norris out early, because to be completely honest with you, it's Lando Norris, and he's got a plus 9. Remember, plus 19 grid penalty. I know the further you go up and qualify, the further you qualify up the grid, the better. Just simply down to the fact that, you know, you're the first one that gets impacted. So then if someone goes below you, you know, you're higher up the grid. But I don't think that's going to really matter with Norris. It definitely is going to matter with Ricciardo, who, what problem does Ricciardo have? Oh, Ricciardo's going to have to change everything as well. I didn't know that because I don't play practice, but I didn't know that everything could fall into the danger zone. So we're going to have to change everything on Ricciardo's car as well. In probably, I would say, Q2. I think we're just going to have to incur all the penalties, and let's get to the back of the grid. Let's qualify at the back. Why does that matter? Why does that matter? It's not going to matter. None of qualifying matters. None of it matters. None of it matters because we're at the back of the fucking grid for it all. I don't think we've ever been knocked out in Q1, so I'm not too concerned, to be honest, but you never know. Okay, I joked about going to the back of the grid. Ricciardo's been knocked out in Q1 because of his car problems. Oh, for goodness sakes. I don't think we've ever been knocked out in Q1, so I'm not too concerned, to be honest. Something weird's really happened here. So everyone went out beforehand, but no one's coming out at the end. Literally no one's come out at the end. I have no idea why. I sent Norris out thinking, oh, this is going to be the smart idea. In the end, we actually would have been fine. We would have qualified. So I don't know why no one went out. We've got less amount of softs. Like, my knowledge of F1, or lack of knowledge of F1, is really coming into play here because we've got less softs. And I thought that was just a glitch or because of the grid penalties. Clearly not. And it's a genuine thing. And that's why everyone stayed in the pits. This is a weird qualifying session. Woo! I thought we jumped into 8th there, but we jumped back down to 9th. We ended up keeping 9th in the end, just simply because Alonso also got better. But yeah, we've all got grid penalties, so where anyone's going to end up, I have no idea. Sainz will be on pole, but where the rest of us end up, no idea.
Lights out, and away we go.
Here we go. We're starting off 19th and 20th in this race. God knows where we're going to end up, but that's where we're starting. Now, I know I haven't walked you through what our strategy is. Our strategy is to start on the softs, and then rain's going to come, and then it's going to be wet for the rest of the race.
Orlando,
so
nice job.
that's literally it. There is no other way of explaining it. Because, I mean, Norris has just overtaken Leclerc. Leclerc will definitely take that back, but that was a nice little moment. Yeah, if you look at the track, it starts getting wet, and then it continues to go until the end of the race, but the parts where it starts petering off, it's only going to go to inters. It's not really going to do much else, so these two are just battling it out. So yeah, I'm not really sure how things are going to go, but it's going to be an interesting one for sure, this race, because we are literally trying to push at the start, gain a few positions, and then we can work off of that when we end up on the wet. I'm getting a bit nervous with Danny Rick and Norris here. I don't mind Danny Rick overtaking Norris. Just don't crash into each other again. You've done that once. I don't need it twice in 2 races because this will be a very, very short episode otherwise. We're trying to just make up as many positions as possible. Okay. Danny Rick has started that off, and Norris has started that off actually by overtaking the Williams. So we're just going to kind of follow this Ferrari, hopefully, up the grid and get some points. All I want is some points on this board. There's a safety car.
Delta positive, Delta positive.
Why is there a safety car? Okay, we're gonna harvest everything. Schumacher's crashed. Mick Schumacher's out the race. We said that there was a 0% chance of a safety car, but Mick Schumacher locked up and just crashed straight into the wall. No one even touched him. He just did that all on his own on the second lap. I don't know what it is about these last 2 races, but they have been absolutely mental in terms of retirements. Right, so we're just going to harvest on everything. This kind of plays into our hands with the softs a little bit. The only part it doesn't play into our hands with is the fact that we were hoping to go up the grid before rain comes. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So yes, we could push on the softs a bit longer, but we also are going to be in a bit of trouble because we're not pushing up that grid like we thought we could. So it's just going to be a full-on restart yet again once we've caught everyone up. Right, so the safety car is ending. We are going to push. We have got a lot of tyres, a lot of battery life to spare. Let's absolutely push for this. The only problem is rain was expected about lap 20. I have a feeling that's going to come a little bit earlier now, just for the fact of we've had this safety car which has slowed things down. Look at the last lap, nearly 40 seconds more, and that happened for a couple of laps. So I think it will come earlier. I think the rain will come earlier now. Rick is trying to overtake Stroll right now. So it is overtake City as we are absolutely pushing our car and tyres to the limit to try and make up as many places as possible. Leclerc's trying to come out the outside. We're going to try and overtake Albon. But has he distracted us enough, Leclerc? Really no, he hasn't. We've managed to take Albon. I'd say we managed to take Albon. I bloody hope so. We have. And Danny Rick's managed to take Stroll in this exact same chicane. That was brilliant. Nice job. Absolutely brilliant by Norris and Ricciardo. Push, guys. Push, because rain's on its way. And I don't want rain to come right now because we are loving this. Danny Rick has overtaken Gasly, actually, which is huge. Beautiful stuff by Danny Rick. He's starting to vanish up the road right now as he's trying to overtake Vettel next. We'll watch that because we didn't really see that, did we? Because we were talking through our tyre situation. Danny Rick just ended up going up the inside as Gasly was possibly considering an overtake of Vettel himself. And now we put ourselves in the prime position. Norris is finding it a bit more difficult to get up this grid, but Danny Rick is having no problems whatsoever. Come on. Oh, I think in the distance, I think Danny Rick has taken Vettel, and he has. He's taken Vettel, which is incredible, but unfortunately, I'm worried that everyone else is going to get DRS. No, DRS is only just enabled, so that was actually the perfect time for Danny Rick to do what he did. Managing to overtake Vettel, I mean, he's now trying to get as far ahead of this Aston Martin as possible. Norris is still having trouble with the other Aston Martin in Stroll. Yeah. To my surprise, Danny Rick's here. Danny Rick is in the fight for the top 10. We've literally got Magnussen, Tsunoda and Ocon all in front of us right now. And we could end up with 9th just from this battle alone if Danny Rick can get advantage in this battle. Danny Rick is racing incredibly well, and he has left Vettel for dead, which also means he's kind of left Leclerc and Norris for dead, which I thought the way Danny Rick is racing is very much like the way I expected Leclerc to be racing. So fair play, Danny Rick. You've taken me by surprise, and you are smashing this at the moment. Finally, Norris has taken Stroll. It took him long enough. He's finally taken the Aston Martin. Leclerc's ended up overtaking quite a few, so he's now the front of that pack, so it wouldn't surprise me if he leaves them for dead and starts joining our little battle. But Norris, come on, mate. You're slacking a little bit. Let's push forwards and get into this little group that we're in with Danny Rick. Right, it has started to rain. We were expecting rain about 2 laps later than what it's actually come. So it's not meant to rain that heavily just yet. So we can stay out on the soft, so I wouldn't panic just yet. Even if it goes into the damp territory, I think we've got to risk it with these boys and not pit. I think we've only got to pit when the big burst of weather comes. It's going to be risky play, but when you start at the back of the grid, what else can you do? Finally, again, Norris has gotten rid of his Aston Martin problem. They were really becoming a problem. He overtakes Vettel. Right, Norris, you're slacking a little bit. I know I keep saying that, but you really, really are, because you're miles behind where I projected you to be. But what can you do? So here we go. A bunch of people are pitting. I don't know what they're pitting for. A few of them are pitting for Inters. So Magnussen, Gasly's pitted for wets. Vettel and Albon have also pitted. So they've pitted early, whereas we're doing the opposite. We're going to end up pitting late. As Verstappen has spun, I don't know how far back he's gone, but he's ended up spinning.
And there it is.
And it didn't end up being that bad, but he's going to have lost a few positions at the very, very least. But I think it could have been a lot worse, that's for sure. We're kind of playing this very, very risky right now, because it is getting very, very wet. And it's at this peak here. So we're seeing that peak being about 2 millimeters. It might pay to go onto the Inters now. What we might do, I don't do this very often, but I'm going to pause it. Once everyone else on, there's a bunch of people on Inters. I mean, what we do is we pit for the Inters. I know it conflicts with our strategy, but we kind of just got to go with what everyone else does. The temptation to stay out with one of these guys and then just immediately pit for the wets is ridiculous. It's so tempting to do, but this is like 1, 2, 3, 4 laps. Then it starts going, and then we're gonna start we're gonna get about 5 laps out of these. The only thing we could possibly do is do what Gasly and Tsunoda have done and go immediately for the wets, so we don't have to pit again. Which would that work actually? Because Danny Rick was doing quite well. Obviously, we know Norris wasn't. So when it comes to strategy with Norris, if we were to create a new strategy, go on to the wets now, would they last to the end? It'd be tough. It'd be tough, but it'd be doable. Okay, if we were to make the wets last to the very end, although, to be fair, if we look at this, there's a chance... No, there's a chance Inters will come into play. There's a chance. But let's just say we're not. With Danny Rick, we're not going to do it. When would we have to pit Danny Rick for it to work? I don't know why that's orange. Oh, that's currently Optimum. I think we might have to do this. I'm not going to lie. To go... We might have to wait a few laps with Norris. I think this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this strategy. We're going to just make it up as we go along with Danny Rick. However, with Norris, we're going to be absolute idiots. We're going to keep him out there. That's what we're going to do. Oh my God. No wonder there's nothing else we can do. Because Norris is an idiot and is span.
Understood.
I hate him. I hate him.
Look at that. They've spun
I understand he's on softs. I understand that. I understand he's meant to be on Inters. But I also understand that when I'm taking a risk, I don't expect it to go wrong immediately. I expected it to go wrong eventually. But I didn't expect it to go wrong immediately. Norris is now at the back of the grid. There's absolute bugger all week. Well, no, I'm sorry, Norris. You've signed your own death wish, really. You are 100%, no questions asked, staying
Okay, keep looking after the time.
Norris is staying on the wets for the entire rest of the race. That's the only way he's going to manage, is by going onto the wets and staying on them. But he has to stay out on the softs until then. So, sorry Norris, you're going to be at the back for a while.
Let's get back in the
But we're seeing how things go. We might have just pitted Norris at the perfect time because heavy rain has just come and he's about to leave the pits. And if you look at this, it's just going to get wetter and wetter and wetter. So I think we also pit. I also think we pit Ricciardo for those wets and just go on to them now. Because why the hell not? Pit him early and let's just see what happens. So Norris has got a lot of making up to do. Right, so after all the pit stops and we're on the wets and we're probably going to be on them to the end of the race, we are sitting in 17th and 19th. Norris is massively done for. Danny Rick, I think the rain affected us a bit more than I expected. But yeah, so we're not in the best of positions, that's for sure. Fingers crossed we get a crash really, because I think that's our only hope. Actually, I didn't take in consideration there's a few that were still on inters at that point. So there's a few that were still on inters. We're on wets. We're in a great position. So let's see where we end up now, actually, because Leclerc, we thought we had mucked up massively because judging where Leclerc was, but actually looking at things, we're not that far off Leclerc because Leclerc messed up a little bit. And yeah, Ricciardo's just overtaken the Latifi. So yes,
good job.
Norris is absolutely screwed in last. However, Danny Rick is the man. Right, so Joe, who is at the front of the pack when it came to the top 10, is spun, and he's ended up actually going into the pits. So he's ended up going into the pits. I'm guessing he mucked up his tyres a little bit when doing that. So now, Danny Rick sat in 12th. It's pretty much exactly where we were before the wet weather came in, and near Gasly, Leclerc, Russell, Verstappen. So there's a chance we could still get points in this race. Not with Norris, but with Danny Rick. Right, so Danny Rick has finally overtaken Gasly. It took a few laps, but he finally did it. So come on, Ricciardo. I've got absolutely no words whatsoever. Danny Rick, I mean, he's not in the most awful position, but that spin's really mucked us up there.
Will they be able to recover?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Even when I think things are going right with somebody, it's really not in this race so far. Well, the track has become damp. That's right, the track has become damp. It's no longer classed as wet, so we technically should change to the inters. However, with the position that both of these guys are in, all we're going to do is tell these guys to push on their tyres a little bit more and push on their fuel, and then kind of just see what happens, because we can't really afford to pit anymore. So we're just going to have to stay out almost until the end. We might pick Danny Rick right at the end for some inters, but with Norris, he's pretty much going to be there until the end of the race on these wets. Right, so if we're looking at it, look at all the people. I mean, Norris is actually making up a few places, but look at all the people on inters. We are staying on these wets. All these people are on the inters, so they're going to have to pit again. So we are hoping that with the pits, I know we're losing time with Verstappen, but Russell and Leclerc are currently battling, and they have to pit again when the wet weather comes. And the wet weather is on its way. It should be here literally any minute now. We should be getting really wet weather according to our weather forecast. I know it's not 100% accurate, but we can only plan for our weather forecast. And it's just gotten really wet. Here we go. Rain has come, and rain has come fast, thick and fast, and we didn't lose any positions with Danny Rick. We stayed in that 7th place. We stayed behind Verstappen despite all of the pits, despite the fact that we were losing time. We ended up managing to stay out in a really good position, which is huge really, because Danny Rick right now has gone from an absolutely terrible position or an okay position of possibly getting 10th to currently in the top 4. Holy hell. All these guys are still on inters. We could end up in an even better position. I think we could end up at first with Danny Rick. We could end up at the top with Danny Rick. I don't really know what's going on. Danny Rick is back here. They're all over here. So I don't think he's going to come out in first. But he's going to come out in a really, really good position. Because everyone else still has to pit for inters. Russell still has to pit. Leclerc still has to pit. Sonoda still has to pit. Norris is currently in 8th. Yes, his position is a bit more precarious. And yes, I feel like we're in a good enough position now where at the end, when everyone pits for inters, we're going to pit for inters. All right, so the rain has currently stopped, but we have a very, very damp track on our hands. It's 6 millimeters. So it's going to slowly decline over the course of time while we're going around this track. Right, so it's getting awfully close right now to below 4 millimeters. So what we are going to do is we're going to pit with Ricciardo onto the inters after this one. We're watching him here. He's going to have 1 lap absolutely flooring it. We're going to kind of do the same with Norris, but the difference is it's not too risky with Norris because it would make sense with Norris. We might have been able to just pit him right then and there, but we didn't think of that at the time. So we're just gonna push with both of these guys for the remainder of their laps.
100%.
So Ricciardo is literally like the first guy in the pits. We're expecting no rain past this point. We're expecting nice happy weather. So we are going on to the inters. We're gonna do really well on the inters, I feel like, and rise up this grid. We're not following what everyone else does because, to be honest with you, we've kind of got to play a little bit different. We've got to play a little bit dirty. So right now, Norris is also going into the pit. So Ricciardo's ended up coming out in 8th, and he'll be on better tyres. So that's the hope anyway. And for Norris, where is he going to come out? He's going to have to contend with the Aston Martins again, which does concern me because he doesn't really do very well against the Aston Martins.
Let's have a look.
Thank the Lord. I said the Aston Martins might prove to be a problem, but Norris isn't having a problem with them at the end of the race. He's overtaken him with ease in the first lap. He's managed to overtake Vettel. Come on, Norris, a top 10 is on here. Right, you're only going to see one of these because they happened in very quick succession. But Ricciardo has overtaken Leclerc and then I think overtaken Ocon. So we're currently sat in 6th with Danny Rick. So we're in a great position with Danny Rick. We thought that the going on to inters would help us because we'd be quicker. And this has just proven it really. We managed to overtake 2 of our rivals. So if they pit at the same time we do, if it maybe dries up a bit further so we can go on to softs, then we're going to be in an absolutely fine position. Lando Norris has managed to take George Russell on the chicane. Brilliant stuff by Norris. Norris is really coming into this race now and at the prime position as well. Norris has also decided that that wasn't enough, so he has overtaken Leclerc. So I knew these inters would do the job, but oh boy are they doing the job. And to think no one else has done that. Everyone else is relying on these lasting so they can go on to some softer tyres. But if they'd gone onto the inters like we did, they wouldn't have lost all the positions that they have to McLaren. Ricciardo has overtaken Verstappen as well, and Norris has just overtaken Alonso, and Norris has just overtaken Bottas. Oh my days. And it looks like Ricciardo, if we go down here, Ricciardo might be able to be might stand a chance of overtaking Hamilton. This is incredible stuff. It's currently about to go below 1 millimeter, and it's going to continue to go below 1 millimeter. So what I'm actually going to do, which is going to blow your minds, I'm going to pit them again for some fresh softs, and we're going to finish the race on some softs. That's what we're going to do. It's saying mandatory compounds. I swear that doesn't matter. I swear it doesn't matter that you don't go on to different tyres. Because it only... only if it's a wet race. I don't know what... Oh, I don't know. This is a mandatory compound. You must use at least one mandatory compound during the race. So does that mean we have to go on to mediums for the end of this race? I don't really know. I'm going to kind of wait it out because I was going to jump the gun, but then that's kind of scared me a little bit. So I don't like being scared. So how to the know with that? Let's just kind of see what happens. Brilliant, because Ricciardo's overtaken Hamilton. Ricciardo's now going to overtake Perez. And we have got 3 laps. I know it's not a lot, but we've got 3 laps to try.
You're doing a good job.
Try and get towards Sainz. So I think let's just push on these tyres as much as possible. If no one else is going to pit, let's push on these tyres. Norris is now closing down Verstappen. And again, if Norris can do that and get 5th, this would end up being an incredible race for us. Sainz is now going into the pits. I don't know what for, but Sainz is going into the pits. I don't know what compounds he started on. So I don't really know whether this is okay to do. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Sainz has pitted. Now my question is, do I feel pitting Ricciardo is the wrong decision? Because I think it would be. I think we've got to keep Ricciardo on these inters. I really do. I think we've got to keep Ricciardo on these inters. As for Norris, I think we've almost got to do the same thing. I think we have now committed to these tyres till the end of this race. Because currently, right now, we are in 1st and we are in 4th. And the idea of us getting 1st in this race is just tantalising. We could end up with 1st and 3rd, actually, because Perez is on wet tyres. What is the interval like? The interval is only 6 seconds. In 2 laps, that's possible. We could end up with 1st and 3rd after starting the race 19th and 20th. This would be an incredible race for us if we manage to pull this off. But pulling this off is going to take an absolute miracle. Norris is currently in 3rd. I think he might be having to hold off. Oh no, I said he was going to have to hold off Hamilton. Hamilton's now in front of him. So Norris isn't going to manage to do it. He's not going to manage to... Norris isn't going to manage to get 3rd, unfortunately. But we're currently going for pole, which I don't think is going to happen because Sainz is catching him up at the most incredible pace, which is expected. But we had to try. We had to try on these tyres. We're going to have to hold him off. We're not going to hold him off. So he's overtaken us. Sainz is in 1st. We can't let him go. We can't let him go. We've got to deploy. We've got to deploy, but I think we have let him go. Unfortunately for us, we had to try, but DRS kind of did screw us over there, which is fair. With Norris, we're going to have to push a little bit as well, but it's not really going to work as well with Norris. Norris will end up with 5th. But to get 2nd and to get 5th after the start of this race is absolutely incredible. We took a risk by staying out on the inters until the end. We're the only stupid ones to do that. Danny Rick is on podium. Holy Mary Mother of God. Well done, Danny Rick. An absolute incredible performance by Danny Rick.
You take the checkered flag.
Norris, you've got to try, mate. You've got to push on these tyres.
It's a good afternoon.
Perez is going to... is probably going to overtake him. It might put him into 6th. But to be completely honest with you guys, if you'd offered me 2nd and 6th at the start of this, I would have snapped up your hand. And that's exactly what we're getting, unfortunately. But brilliant stuff there. Perez managed to take us at the end, but I'll take a 2nd and a 6th. I think we lost fuel right at the end as well. Which is absolutely brilliant. I love the fact that we lost fuel right at the end, trying to push to the very, very end. We lost that fuel. Unbelievable, Danny Rick. Unbelievable. That makes up. That so makes up for the fact that he crashed into Norris last time. The fact that both of these guys have gone from crashing each other out the race, which then caused us, because of it mucking up the entire car, we ended up starting back of the grid. So we finished back of the grid. We started back of the grid. And then we've ended up on a podium in second, our best ever finish in a race. We've gotten second. Incredible stuff, Danny Rick. Unbelievable there. And that's another podium for McLaren. Get in. And there we go. There's the final standings. Lando Norris with 8 points. Ricciardo with 18 points. Danny Rick rising 18 positions. Norris rising 13 positions. And Leclerc, who started right at the back of the grid with us, managed to go up by 9. And look at this, right? Everyone else stopping about 4 or 5 times. Lando Norris stopping twice in that race. And Ricciardo stopping 3 times. That's the risks we had to take. We had to take so many risks with our strategy in this race, and it paid off. It really did pay off for us. Danny Rick now rises to 9th in the Drivers' Championship, with Norris making sure he keeps that 6th spot. He isn't closing down the gap on Lewis Hamilton. However, he does manage to pull a little bit away from the likes of George Russell and Fernando Alonso. But it's really nice to look at both of our people and see a podium on there. Because even Mercedes don't have that. That was Mercedes' first podium. So, and looking at the constructors, I mean, we are closing the gap on Mercedes. You know, we lost ground on them before, but we've managed to gain 5 points on them here, and we've managed to gain 25 points on Alpine, so absolutely negating the last race. So we have really secured this 4th spot for us. It's whether in the last few races of this season we can really make a push on Mercedes. We've managed to upgrade our wind tunnels, so now we'll be able to develop better car parts, which is brilliant. We've got a regulation though. What in the world is this? We're proposing new financial regulations. We propose a lower cost cap to keep all the teams on a level playing field. These changes are detailed below. Okay, so it would get lower. Yes, vote for it. Lower cost caps, brilliant, can't complain. Our weather centre has been upgraded to 80% now. We do rely on the weather quite a lot, and I think the next race is predicted in Monza to be wet, so that might come into good use. And then with the team hub, we upgraded just because it's nice to upgrade the team hub, isn't it? And we get a new ATR period, which is huge because we can develop a new car part. We're exceeding expectations, as we always seem to do at the moment, which is really, really nice to see. We are going to Monza and Singapore for the next 2 races. As you can see here, it's predicted that it could be another wet race on the cards. We don't know that much for Singapore just yet. But that brings an end to this episode. An absolutely chaotic episode. It's literally the Jekyll and Hyde of races in this episode. We didn't finish. Both of them had to retire in the first, and we managed to get a podium in the second. What an episode that is. Make sure to hit that like button if you have enjoyed it. Do comment your thoughts down below to the absolute chaotic nature of this episode. And if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe so you do not miss an episode. And I shall see all of you in the next video. See ya! I played that and I still haven't got a clue how in the world I managed to do that.